Well, good afternoon everyone, and welcome to what you can see is a beautiful, beautiful afternoon here in South Africa. We're in the Sabi Sands on Nkuhuma Private Game Reserve, and we are very fortunate, like I say, with the weather. There's a gentle but cool breeze blowing, so it's not too hot, and typical weather for this time of the year. We do have cooler weather. We are going into our winter, and a partly cloudy day like this is very, very enjoyable, both for the temperature but also for the eyes, because the scenery is absolutely magical. It's great to be back with all of you again. Mark's been steering the ship for a few days and he's had some incredible sightings. I've been so jealous of what's actually been going on out there, but so happy because all of us are in this together, and so happy to be able to share these great sightings even when it is the other presenters who are in the action. So speaking of which, just to give you a brief highlight of what happened this morning, it was Mark out on drive. He managed to find a pack of wild dogs right at the start of drive. It was a high intensity start to the morning, and the wild dog actually came across a hyena den site where we spent quite a lot of time, and Mark couldn't get the vehicle in there as quick as the whole action unfolded, but a lot of you who were watching would have heard the crazy sounds coming from mainly the hyena chattering away, and one of the hyena got a few little cuts on her bottom that Mark did see, but he didn't manage to make it to the hyena den site for a proper investigation. So we certainly will be going there this afternoon to see what the damage to the hyena was. It seems like the wild dog did come out on top in this battle. It's often very even between the two animals, depending on how many either pack of wild dogs or clan of hyenas, depending on how many members they have. Anyway, that's something interesting to look forward to later on this evening, to see how the hyena family is doing. And in the meantime, we're going to be following up on another animal that Mark found. It was a female leopard called Karula, and we are going to start the afternoon by having a look for her. Mark's given me accurate directions as to where he last saw her. It is quite a thick area, so we have a challenge ahead of us. Not the easiest area to be looking for a leopard, but she could well have moved out of the thicker area that she was heading into and be sleeping on a tree right next to the road, ideally. Oh, good afternoon. This virtual starling just flew up and landed right next to us, and when they are this close, it's an opportunity that we cannot miss out on. Sadly, the sun isn't positioned accordingly, so there we go. So we didn't notice the iridescent sheen that you often will notice on starlings when the sunlight hits them at the right angle. I'm just going to creep forward a little bit. There's another bird. Let's see how close we can get. It seems relaxed with that. It's concentrated on feeding at the moment. I tried to go too far. There was a hornbill in the road digging through a pile of elephant dung. You may have seen it. I was hoping to find out exactly what it was looking for within that pile of dung, but in all likelihood it would be insects that will be feeding on and breaking down that elephant's dung. So it's interesting how an animal that's busy doing its business, trying to recycle nutrients back into the ecosystem, can get caught short and eaten by a bird, but in the same token also be recycled back into the nutrient cycle. So that was an interesting little ongoing there. Now we are close to where Mark did finally leave Karula, this female leopard. So anywhere from here, I'm going to ask you all to keep your eyes peeled and help us to try and spot this leopard. Now, it is difficult. As you can see, there's a lot of long grass and thick vegetation, and at this time of the year, with the coloration of a lot of the grass and vegetation, the leopards blend in incredibly well. However, there are still a few telltale signs that you can look for to help you when spotting animals, and that is to actually not look for the animal And if VM just doesn't zoom in, you might see what I mean here. So you're wanting to look for a shape or an outline, and VM will slowly zoom in, and you may see a shape or outline here that doesn't quite fit in. And that is exactly what we're looking for. We did get very lucky this afternoon. And as you can see, here is a leopard, and I certainly wasn't expecting it to be that easy. But luck is on our side, and what a great start to the afternoon this is. Now at first glance, I'm guessing that this could well be Karula, the female leopard we were looking for. And I must add, there's been a lot of debate this morning amongst the viewers as to who exactly this is. Now, for any of you who may be joining for the first time, firstly I must welcome you and let you know that we've got off to an incredible start. But also, it's important to know that some of the viewers have been viewing this show for so long and following us so closely that they've got to know the individual animals. And you can differentiate between certain leopards depending on their spot pattern. And there's various spots that you can look at all over the animal's body, but it's quite often the ones on the face, around the muzzle and the whiskers, that help us to identify the leopards. This specific female's got spots that almost spell out "wow" on her forehead, between her eyes, just above her eyes. And it is always interesting to get into a sighting and ask the viewers around the world who they think it is. And this morning, the large majority of the viewers did put through their feedback and say that it was indeed Karula. And we must thank you for all your help, because it can sometimes be tricky to identify these animals. And we need all the help we can get, and thank you very much for that help. Again, for first-time viewers, it's important to realize that this is live, so it doesn't matter where you are in the world and what time of day it is there. It is currently 3:10 here in South Africa, and we have just found this leopard. It's a live show, and it's also interactive, so if you'd like to ask us questions at any given point, please do that, and you would hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Then Nikki, who's in the final control room this afternoon, will process all those questions and try and filter them through to us out here via an earpiece. I've got radio communication with the final control room, as well as all the game drive vehicles that will be driving around here. Now, a question that a lot of you may be wanting to ask, but I'm going to answer it before you get the chance to, because I'm sure a lot of you will be interested to hear my thoughts on this. But we now have to ask ourselves, what do we do? This female leopard is clearly asleep, and as beautiful as leopards are, when they're fast asleep in the long grass, there's only so long you can look at them for. So naturally we'll begin to wonder and guess as to when she might become active. Now, it can be difficult to predict these things, even though they are animals of habit. Just like us humans, we change our habits on a daily basis, and depending on our mood, we might wake up a little bit later some mornings than others. And it's the same for these animals. What we can look for is to see whether her stomach is full. And not the easiest when they're lying down. However, I would say that she's content. She's not full-bellied, she's not starving, but a hungry leopard is more likely to become active, or more active, than a full-bellied leopard. So we're kind of sitting somewhere in the middle, it appears. And it is cool, so heat would not be something that would be preventing this leopard from moving. And even though they do predominantly move at night time, especially as it cools now into the winter, they almost may spend as much time moving during the day as the night. So it does depend a lot on the temperature, but also the individual leopard. go ahead. Now, I have just remained parked in the exact position where we stopped as we spotted this leopard, and I know it's not the best view or angle, but I fear that we're not in a position to really get much better. We'd have to drive a bit too close to her, and we wouldn't want to ruin her siesta. What I am going to suggest is that we do a short drive around the immediate surroundings and see if there's any prey lurking about. There could be some impala heading straight towards her, and then it certainly would be worth our while to hang around. But if it looks like there's not too much around, we may head off and come back a bit later to look for her. But let's just go for a quick drive around and see what we can find. Well, what a start that was, and very good prospects for later on, now that we know she's here. Regardless of when we come back, we've got a much better chance of finding her again now that we know where she is at this stage of the afternoon. There is quite often a large herd of impala that move through this area, and impala provide the leopard in this area with a large amounts of their food. Depending on the different times of year, the leopard will target on impala of different ages as well as different sexes. When we started this broadcast in November, December, I remember my first day here at Nkuhuma, I got to see Karula with an impala kill. She had killed a baby impala, and at that time of the year, the impala are giving birth, and we can and do see a lot of leopard kills with baby impala. That now has changed. Those young impala have become faster and more nimble, but the men have begun, or are beginning to become now the prime target for the leopard. And that's because the male impala are beginning their rutting season, and in the next couple of weeks we can expect to see some great action as the male impala chase themselves around and fight for territories, and also therefore the rights to the ladies that come with those territories. But what will also happen is that while the male impala are so caught up in one another fighting, it makes for a very easy opportunity for a leopard to run in and often jump onto the back of an impala without them even realizing that the leopard was there. They could still have their horns locked, or lawns hocked, depending on how you prefer to pronounce it. Got my letters jumbled up there. Anyway, that's something to look forward to. Both the impala rutting and the excitement of seeing leopards potentially trying to catch them. Got a message through on the Game Drive channel, so I'm just going to chat to the guides and see what they're up to. Go ahead. I'm on Impala Plains Road, just located Karula lying up. Copy, thanks very much for that update. Interestingly enough, there's some tortoise tracks heading down the road, and I'm just going to try and stop in a spot where it's clear and where VM will hopefully be able to show you these tracks. It's not common to have tortoise moving around at this time of the year as it becomes very dry. And apologies, VM, I've yet to introduce you this afternoon. VM is on camera, and as a lot of you may know, we have had a lot of luck recently and love being out together. I'm just going to jump out and try and show you these tracks. So you'll notice this would have been the left foot. This would have been, sorry, the right foot. And these over here slowly waddling down the road this way. So just interesting to see. And like I say, in summer it would be common to see a lot of their tracks, but now in the winter time, or as we approach the winter, they do become a lot less active. They're highly dependent on water, and being a tortoise means it's not very easy to travel long distances to get to water. Sadly, it looked like it was walking in the opposite direction to us, so the fact that we haven't seen it means it's unlikely that we will, as we've passed already where it was going. But very important for us to keep an eye on the roads for tracks. It's a vital part of us being able to find animals out here. One of many different signs or signals that we use is simply the tracks on the roads and the different pathways. So as I'm driving along, I am keeping a close eye out for anything of interest that may have walked down there, but we're also listening. There's so many animals of various shapes and sizes, birds, squirrels, monkeys, the antelope, that will all alarm call if they see a predator, and that certainly also helps us in locating animals. So as you can see, it's not looking too promising for Karula, that female leopard, to have an easy meal. But that's simply along the road. We've driven animals move either side of the roads, and we could well have driven past something that we couldn't see that could also be heading to Karula. And it is often a time when both lions and leopards, and any predator for that fact, make kills. It can be when they're sleeping under a bush and animals come walking up to them, and it's just complete luck for the predator. It's far easier to wait for something to walk up to you than to try to sneak up on something. So you sometimes, and fairly often, will leave a pride of lion or a leopard sleeping under a tree in the morning with nothing in sight, and you come back that afternoon and clearly something would have had to almost walk onto them in order for them to have been able to catch them, and there they are with their kill. Really wondering what we should do now, and what I'm thinking is to turn around, and actually we can probably do a loop around. Let's do a big loop around back to the last position of this leopard. And at any point at this stage of the afternoon, she could get up and active. So that's why I think it is necessary for us to go back there. We will do a loop around and check some other roads on the way there to see if there's anything else of interest running about, which I'm sure there is. It just means we have to get out there and explore. And we'll get back to her in about 10 or 15 minutes. Keep an eye on what her body language is kind of signaling to us, whether we think she may get up and move. Failing that, we will make our next decision, and at that point in time we'll be deciding whether to go to Buffelshoek Dam to see if there's any action there, or possibly to head to the hyena den site. Hopefully by then there will be a few more game drive vehicles out and about, and the more people that are out here exploring, the more updates we get over the radio, and the easier it is for us to plan our afternoon. The plans often change, I'll warn you in advance, but we can vaguely kind of plan what our best options are. And it was just last night on the fireside chat that we debated the pros and cons of having the radios versus not having them, and for what we're doing here, trying to share as much as possible with you guys all around the world, it certainly does help us to have radios, because to be out here on your own searching, you can often spend many days looking for animals, but when there's a group of you collectively looking, sharing information, following up on tracks collectively, it becomes a lot more productive, and everybody gets to share, which is wonderful. It sometimes, on the flip side, does mean you may be pressured to leave a really interesting sighting in order to be able to share it, but that's like anything in life, I guess. You have to give in order to receive, and sometimes you give a little bit more than you'd want, but then sometimes you receive a little bit more than you expect. So it certainly is without a doubt worthwhile. And I've noticed Viam's been panning up into the clouds a lot this afternoon and sharing that with you, and what a beautiful afternoon it is. I'm not sure if these clouds will bring rain. It's not our rainy season, and we're heading out of it. Our summer's our rainy season, and our winter is our dry season. But there is still a chance of rain. We've had a few very small downpours, and even though some of these clouds certainly look to be bringing some rain, they very often do, but may skirt past just a few kilometers from us, and we miss all the action. So I certainly don't predict rain for this afternoon, but it could happen. The vegetation certainly would love it, and along with the vegetation, the herbivores that feed on the vegetation. It's been an abnormally dry summer. Nothing outrageous or bizarre. It does happen from time to time that you just have a slightly drier summer than normal, but it will mean that it is going to be a little bit harder for the herbivores coming into this winter, unless of course some of these clouds that we see bring a serious amount of rain. Now, the tortoises have got me thinking now, because here again I found some tortoise tracks, but this one is a tiny little tortoise, and as you can see here, these would have been one row of feet, and these on the other side, so with the shell in the middle, walking along. And what we can read into this is that a lot of the animals here have got a far better ability to predict rain than I certainly do. And for those of you who have been following the show, you'll notice that I'm a terrible weatherman. Whenever I predict something, I get it completely wrong. But the animals can often be right. And the fact that these tortoises are moving, we've seen tracks of a big tortoise earlier, and now a much smaller tortoise, excuse me, who knows, maybe they are aware that there is some rain on the way. And wouldn't that be interesting if their signals are correct? Now, the good thing about getting out and looking at baby tortoise tracks is that sometimes they open your eyes to other tracks in the area, and I've just noticed there's tracks of a male leopard that walk down this road. It's going to be difficult for VM to show you, and the track's not a very fresh one, so we're not going to attempt it. When I say it's not very fresh, it looks like a vehicle's driven over it, but I still think the tracks are from sometime this morning, and they are heading in our direction. Who knows, it possibly could be one of the sons of the female leopard that we saw a little bit earlier. And she's got just over 2-year-old sons now, so they are independent, but still lurking in her territory. So it's very common to see them around this area, and we've probably seen those 2 sons more than any other leopards in the 5 odd months that we have been broadcasting. Radio check. Copy, thanks. So, good prospects, male leopard tracks heading in the direction that we're heading in to look at a female that we've just found. So, even if we don't find the male, we've got hopefully a female that is still lying there for us. And who knows, if we're very lucky, we could possibly even see them together. And that's been something that we haven't been lucky enough to share with you or even witness ourselves when we head out sometimes between the game drives. But there will certainly be some interaction between her and these 2-year-old cubs. She will want as little interaction as possible, because they're big boys now and they need to fend for themselves and stop eating all her meals. And she needs to look after herself, but not only herself, the next generation of cubs that she's bringing into the world. Now, we're not exactly sure whether she is pregnant. She wasn't seen mating, and even if leopards are seen mating, they potentially may not conceive. Either way, sometimes we are lucky enough to see leopards mating and then can assume that we're going to have cubs in about 3 months' time. It's about a 3-month gestation period. That we haven't seen, so no mating, but we have noticed that her belly is beginning to droop and sag a little bit more than normal, and this is a telltale sign of a pregnant leopard. So, considering the fact that she's got some growing babies inside her, she needs all the food she can get and doesn't want her 2 sons that she's already raised and taught the ways of the wild enough so that they can survive alone. She doesn't want them stealing from her. So it won't be big hugs and kisses when they see one another. It'll be more spitting and snarling. Sadly though, we have not seen that, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there would be big hugs and kisses. We will only find out when we see it, and even if we saw them meet up today, we could see very different behavior to a meeting that they may even have tomorrow. But that is something that I'm confident will happen at some stage. And please carry on doing what you're doing. You'll notice these crested francolins are covered in dust, and this little happy family's all been in the road dust bathing. And there we go. I mean, how awesome is that? Absolutely beautiful. So these are crested francolin, and in all likelihood 2 adults, and they're fairly large chicks now that are hard to differentiate, but it will be a little family. And you may ask yourself, why on earth would you be bathing yourself in the dirt? Well, it helps them to preen their feathers. If there's a small film of dirt, it allows them to almost have a layer of grip in which to pull out and preen out little ectoparasites and fleas. And off they go. go ahead, Stefan. Copy, thank you very much. Well, I've got some great news through on the radio, and I am going to share it with all of you now, even though sometimes we like to keep it a surprise. We'll keep mixing it up. I am going to let you know, though, that Brent and Stefan have headed out to familiarize Stefan with the roads in this area and just spend some time bonding with one another, I guess. So they've gone out also with Andrew, the one cameraman, to go and look for animals and help us in bringing you some more action, and they certainly have done that this afternoon. They have found a pride of lion that nobody knew of this morning, so a real big surprise, and we are going to head there, but not right now. It's quite far away, and the lion aren't really doing too much at the moment, so we would rather try and get there a little bit later on, when it would be more likely that they become active. So, if you have plans for later on, and they coincide with you also wanting to see lion, then you're going to possibly have to rearrange things a little bit. But good prospects for later, and even got good prospects for the next 2 or 3 minutes, where we should be arriving back at this female leopard. And it is important to understand that these are big areas that we traverse through, so it's not very easy just to get from A to B. And on top of that, if we were in a rush to get to the lions, if there was some intense action unfolding, we certainly would hustle on over there, but it seems like everything is quite calm and tranquil, so we will rather try and make the most of what else is available to us until the lion become a little bit more active. And a lot of you would have noticed that I said Stefan as well as Brent. Now, Stefan is new to the team and going to be taking his first drive tomorrow morning, so that's something that all of us can look forward to. You, the viewers, are going to have a new presenter and a new twist on the guiding experience, and each presenter and or guide will have little different styles and bits of knowledge that we share with one another and yourselves. So really great to have him around. He's got heaps of knowledge and experience, and he's out with Brent, who a lot of you will know is one of our other presenters, and Brent has just got back from a wedding, so he's very happy to be back after being in the chaotic city of Johannesburg, and they're out on a little adventure. It's already paid off for us. A good example of how the radio and more people searching this area can all help and share with what they find. Stefan. I'm not sure if you would be interested in maybe coming across to this Karula sighting and hanging around here. She is stationary at the moment. Okay, copy, perfect, thanks. She was lying there, wasn't she? Hey, Vian? Are you sure? It was a very similar looking spot though. Myself and Vian both found ourselves looking in the same place, and there was no leopard to be seen. I think it's just around this next corner there. Oh, here it is. Okay, copy. Thanks very much. Copy. So confirm the best access is off the eastern or western arm down from Buffalo's cut line. Okay, copy. Thank you. I'm happy for you to carry on. No problem. Thank you. So I was just getting a better idea of exactly what the location is of the lion that we will be heading over to a little bit later on this evening. And now that I know exactly where they are, just let Stefan know that he can head off. He says they are fast asleep and they're going to head out and see what else they can find for us. And may even come across here and keep an eye on this leopard. It's not a bad scenario for us to be in though, deciding which big cat to be looking at what time. It certainly isn't. But it can be difficult to choose. We never know what may happen at any stage. A warthog could come running past this leopard in the next 2 minutes. And understandably, we would want to be around for that. But there's no way of telling what will happen. At some stage she will wake up, I'm fairly certain of that. But when, I'm not too sure. The breeze has died down, and when the sun is not behind the clouds, the heat is picking up a little bit, so not really in our favor for expecting to see big cats on the move. It's just a little weather update from us. The clouds are still building to the south and to the east, but nothing too serious, and I still don't think we're going to get wet this afternoon. Okay, well, it's not an easy decision for me to make, but and I love spending time with leopards more than probably any other animal. But I think we are going to leave her to sleep. We may be able to come back a little bit later, but it all depends on what we find along the way. But I would like to head across to a big water hole, which is quite close to where the lions are, and that way we'll hopefully be able to see some animals drinking. Like I said, it has heated up a bit, and when it's hotter the water holes become more active, so I'm hoping that there might be some elephants or who knows what at the dam. There's a crocodile there that's provided us with some great viewing, and then potentially a little bit later on the lions may come down to drink, and who knows what they might come across at the water hole. So that's the reason why we're going to head across there. Another reason is we do get more lucky when it comes to leopard sightings than we do with lion. So there's almost always leopard on the property. Their territories are a little bit smaller than the lions, and we've got to know some of their habits, and we're getting better and better at finding them. But lions, on the other hand, have got bigger territories and sometimes can move through our property in the night, and while we're asleep they're here. When we wake up they're gone, and we've had that quite a lot recently. Although in the last few days there have been some incredible sightings. Mark did a great job. He tracked down 2 big males just the other day. And also Mark had a wonderful sighting of a pride of lion called the Salala Breakaways, and there's 13 lion in that pride. It's the biggest pride of lion we see. The pride of lion we're going to have a look at now, I haven't seen for weeks. They've been lurking just to the north of us. They managed to kill a giraffe about a week and a half ago, and they've just recovered from feeding on a giraffe worth of meat, which is a huge amount, and now they're on the move again looking for some more food, and they've just come back onto our property. It's the first time in, like I say, weeks that I would have seen them, and there's 8 of them in this pride. Well, there were certainly 8 of them last time I saw them. Stations are left Karula lying up on Impala Plains Road, midway between the power lines and Balanati's junction. She's just lying up very close to the road on the western side. Go ahead. Good afternoon, Nigel, and welcome on board with us. Nigel is asking what my thoughts are rather on what would happen when Karula, this female leopard, does give birth to her next set of cubs. If her 2 sons came into the equation at any stage, if they wanted to approach the cubs, what would happen? And it's a great question. It's hard to say exactly what would happen. Each scenario is different, and just like us humans, leopards have got their own personalities, and they can vary between individuals, and just like us, they can also vary depending on our mood of the day. What I will tell you though, Nigel, is my experience with leopards here in the Sabi Sands is that it's been noted not once but on several occasions of female leopards tolerating her cubs from a previous generation in sightings together with cubs from a current generation, so small cubs of 2 or 3 months old. And I've actually seen a sighting with 5 leopards in it. The mother, the father, the 2-year-old son and 2 3-month-old cubs. And it wasn't just a fleeting glimpse for 5 minutes. They would spend a lot of time together. Often the female would go out hunting and leave the older son almost as a babysitter with the 2 cubs. And that certainly is behavior that wouldn't necessarily be documented in textbooks. Now that may be changing because we are getting better insight to what is naturally such a shy and elusive animal. We are extremely spoilt with the quality of the sightings and the proximity we can get to the leopards here in the Sabi Sands, and that's from years and years of habituation. Okay, finally we found a bird that I've been trying to show all of you. There was a special request. I can't remember sadly who the request was from, but I wanted to look at greater blue-eared starlings, and these are them. So I'm going to get my book out, but just look closely. You'll notice a slightly greenish sheen when the sun is correct on its predominantly bluish feathers, but it does have a very kind of slight green tinge, and it's one of the starlings that are difficult to distinguish between here in the Sabi Sands. We get 3 different types predominantly of these blue colored starlings, and 2 of them look very similar. And it was days and days of driving around hoping to see one, and now we've got one in perfect afternoon sunlight, even with some dark clouds in the background. A photographer's dream. And for those of you who are new to the show, it certainly is worth looking into getting into the screenshotting. Some of our viewers have got the most incredible photographs that they capture from screenshots, and often outcompete us here in the field with big fancy cameras that we don't know how to work. And it's good to keep us on our toes, and always great to see the images that you are managing to capture, and a lot of you will do some great editing work as well. So thanks for keeping us on our toes, and if you are new, it certainly is worth looking into. Well, I've got the bird book out here, and out of the 4 starlings on this page, it's just the Meave starling with a very long tail that we don't get here. But to its left we have the greater blue-eared starling. It does have the slightly more green tinge, as well as a dark ear covert, whereas the one above it, which we can confuse it with, the Cape Glossy starling, has a more bluey tinge. Ideally we would have them sitting next to one another for a comparison in real life, but I hope you did manage to see that greenish tinge. And it could have been Diane in Michigan, if I remember correctly, but it's a shot in the dark. So Diane, if you are watching the show, and it was you that asked to see the greater blue-eared starling, here it is. The starling at the bottom, the Birchall starling, was the first starling we saw this afternoon. We didn't notice this beautiful iridescent sheen simply because we were behind the sun. We were on the wrong side of the sun looking into it, and they can look a dark blue in overcast weather, but when the sun is shining, it's certainly one of the prettier birds we get out here. And thankfully they stick around all year. So unlike a lot of the migratory birds, which a lot of them have already left, I haven't seen a European roller for a while, so they're on their way back north for the European summer. The Woodlands kingfisher is another one we're missing. It doesn't go as far as Europe, more to Central and North Africa. some zebra tracks heading down this road, and that's a good sign. Zebra are an animal that we don't see very often here, especially at this time of the year. They seem to have moved off to areas elsewhere, and they are wonderful animals to have a look at. So with a little bit of luck, we'll have some zebra. This road leads to a larger open clearing, and that's typically the environment that zebras prefer to hang out in. For safety purposes as well as food, they like feeding on shorter grass. And that's one of the reasons why we don't get too many of them here, is because, as you can see, we don't have lots of large open clearings. So it's simply the wrong habitat for them to occur in very large numbers. I remember guiding here for 3.5 years when I started my guiding career. We would have no problem showing guests all the other important animals that everyone hopes to see, and on your last morning after they've been here for 3 or 4 nights, you'll be racing around trying to track down zebra of all animals. So that gives you an idea of their numbers in these parts. Hence my excitement to see their tracks heading down the road. There's a large dam up ahead and around. The dam is a very big open clearing. Their tracks do continue down in that direction. Things are still looking good. But there's a pretty little bird in front of us, and it's nice and close by, so this is a good opportunity for us, and it's hunting. Now, hard to say exactly what it's feeding on. They often feed on ants and termites, any small insects. But this is a yellow-billed hornbill, and despite having a massive beak, they can also be very accurate when picking up tiny prey, and those are in fact little ants or termites. Go ahead. Well, that hornbill has hopped out of view, so we'll see if we can creep forward. Oh, no, they're off. We will continue. We do a lot to do this afternoon, so we'll continue on. And I'm very, very surprised, but you wouldn't believe it was Diane in Michigan who was hoping to see the greater blue-head starling. So Diane, I'm glad we eventually showed you, and I hope you enjoyed that sighting of it. The flies are out in full force, and you'll notice I keep waving my hand around my face. If enough of them crawl on you simultaneously, it can kind of paralyze you with this cold shiver. But it's only there's about 10 or 12, I've noticed. They need to be double figures, and they all kind of do this little moonwalk, and it sends shivers down my spine. No, there's no sign of any zebra, but there do appear to be a few hippopotamus and a buffalo. Is the best place to stop, but we're lucky because we're out the water, which is a sight that we haven't been seeing very much yet, and the reason why is the heat in summer as well as the harshness of the sun is simply too much for the hippo's skin, whereas now that it's cooler as we go into the winter and the sun is not as harsh, we occasionally get lucky and see them out and about like this, which is typically only seen at night. They are mainly nocturnal when they'll go out and search for grass to feed on. You'll notice there are some in the water in the background. So again, it's just a good indicator how the same species of animals in exactly the same scenario are doing different things. So they've each got their own idea and mood and plans for the... Oof, I just got those cold shivers from the flies. The hippos we can see standing up are all sub-adults, so they're not fully grown, far from it. You can compare them to some of the larger ones which appear to be in the water. Oh, and aren't we lucky? It looks like... Oh, look at the tiny baby on the left. There's a tiny, tiny little baby on the left. Sadly, we cannot get any closer to them, but you can see from here that it's minute. Awesome, and aren't we lucky that they've stood up, because we would never have seen this otherwise. And I mean, you can see where the mother is standing. It is the hippo on the far left, and the fact that we can hardly see her little baby means that it's tiny, because she's probably only submerged about 6 inches or 12, maybe 12 inches at the most. They've got short little legs, the hippo, so she's not deep at all, yet we can hardly see any of that calf. Well, always good to have a new addition to the host of different animals we have here at Nkuhuma Game Reserve. And I'm so happy we got to see that. So not only hippos out the water, which is something we haven't been seeing too, but also a tiny little baby. Okay, well, it looks like we've got some traffic up ahead, and not just traffic, it looks like some friendly traffic that we've got on the way. It's Stefan and Brent and Andrew, the team of experts who managed to find the lion that we are now slowly making our way to. Good afternoon, everyone.
How are you?
Very good.
Hey, everybody.
So we all now in advance have to thank Stefan and Brent and Andrew for finding us the lion that we are going to be heading over to a little bit. Well done, guys. What happened there?
We found their tracks on the road. It looked like they were on top of some buffalo tracks, and we got off the vehicle, and luckily for us, we found them with a very small tracking effort. They were lying up across a valley, and saw us, watched us for a while. We watched each other, and then they moved off, not too far, 50 meters from.
Okay, and went back to bed.
Yep, straight back to bed. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that, guys, and well done. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
So they were, just to give you just a new update, they were on the closer to the eastern arm.
Okay.
On the fire break. The two drainages that go into Property
Yeah.
Dam, they were on the eastern, just on the western bank of the eastern drainage.
Copy that.
Wallow, where that water, where that sort of open grassy patch comes.
The wallow where you go and do your wallowing.
Exactly.
Okay.
We left 2 roundies deep, right?
Thanks, guys. I'm glad we got to see not a bad way for them to be spending their out force to be able to spend a few days acclimatized to the road, and there's a lot going when you are guiding in an area with the radio procedures and knowing where the sites are. So great for him to be able to familiarize with the roads. It's certainly not something you can learn in a few days. He's got a grip on it. And again, he will be out on drive tomorrow for his first time, and the good news is he may not be the only vehicle out. There is a chance that a second vehicle that has been causing trouble over the last few days and weeks for us has finally been fixed. The mechanic's doing a few last minute touch-ups on it now, and all things accordingly, we should have a second vehicle out in the morning. So that is something to look forward to. We're in for a treat as we drive towards the east now. The clouds building up on the eastern and southern horizons are quite impressive, and certainly going to make for some great scenery. Interesting. So I've just noticed now that it's not just the clouds that are creating this moody afternoon, but also, VM, I'm going to ask you to try and get onto this bird of prey though first before the clouds. Now this is a bird we don't get to see very often. Not very often at all. So I'm going to leave this one up to you to identify. There are two birds that look quite similar to one another, so that's the only bit of advice that I'm going to give you. Absolutely beautiful. It seems to be doing its toenails all the way up there. It's not feeding on anything, but it does appear to be tending to some issue with its talons, and it's going to lead us perfectly into the clouds we wanted to talk about. So look at that. But below the clouds on the eastern horizon, you may be able to notice some smoke rising up, and you certainly can. I'm having a look on the monitor here, and you can see some smoke building there, and that's controlled fires that are being burnt in the Kruger National Park to the east of us. We are open to the Kruger National Park, but that is not within the Sabi Sands Reserve, so quite far from us, and like I said, it is controlled. And a lot of you may be asking, what is a controlled fire? And it's essentially initiation that is performed by us as humans, and that's because of surrounding local communities and infrastructure surrounding the reserve. If there was a lightning strike within those now urbanized areas, it would typically not fall on a tree that it would have initially caught fire, and therefore it means that every now and then, with quite a lot of intensive research actually, we do need to initiate fires in order to be able to clear out a lot of old dead vegetation to make space for new. And it depends on the vegetation and the area you're in. Some places require the vegetation, and therefore everything that goes along with it, required to be burned every year for germination, for clearing out dead older plants, to make space for new growth. Here though, it's not that often, and kind of once every 4 or 5 years it would be natural for a fire to sweep through. But what gets done is small chunks, manageable chunks, get burnt in the right conditions, that way simulating what would naturally happen. And that's about the only major interference or way that we as humans get involved in this ecosystem because of its massive size. It self-maintains itself and self-preserves itself. It's a fully working ecosystem, other than the fire problem that we have to sometimes help out with and burn some areas. Strange stillness about this afternoon. I'm not too sure why. There just don't seem to be as many birds around and as much noise and life as I would have expected. But that happens, and each day is different out here. Again, maybe they know that there is rain coming and they're all getting to do some last minute chores before a deluge comes down, who knows. Oh, Liam has spotted a frog. Okay. Is it on the road? On the tree? Oh. You know what, Liam? I drove straight past it and I thought it was a leaf. This is awesome. Well spotted. Okay, so I'm just going to creep up. Oh, it's going to be tricky, Liam. What do you suggest I do? It'll be best for me to reverse in next to it, I think, eh? Okay, so just bear with us for a second, because we're going to get you a great view of a frog called a foam nest frog. How are we looking here, Vian? Well, Vian, 10 points to you, because even though yes it's very white on that brown and green branch, I thought it was a dead leaf. I looked at it, focused on it, processed what I thought it was, and I had no idea that it was a frog called a foam nest frog, also known as a grey tree frog. They do change their coloration, and because it's a hot afternoon and it is in the sun, that's why it would have be given off a whiter coloration. It can also become a lot darker if it was cold and it was wanting to warm up. They're very, very inactive though now at this time of the year. Their active time of the year is actually summer, where they will build big foamy nests that dangle above puddles and ponds, and they're very common, and we saw a lot of them this summer. And for those of you that were following the show in summer, you would certainly have seen a lot of their foamy nests that they build dangling off branches above ponds, and their tadpoles actually free fall out of these nests as they become big enough and into the ponds below. But the ponds have all dried up and the foam nest frogs have become a lot less active. So Fortunate to see that one there. Second one is correct. That is affirmative. So we've been getting a few answers through regarding the bird of prey that we saw flying about, and in just a few moments we're going to reveal who you are that got the bird right, and not only who got the bird right, because that's not the only important thing, but also importantly we'll be able to show those of you who didn't know exactly what it is and why. There's a lot of elephant tracks on our right. I was just coming back to see how fresh they looked. Not hugely, but they are heading in the right direction, because everything on the right is where we go, on the left we don't go. So they've headed into Nkuhuma, and we're not far from the waterhole that I was planning on heading to. So maybe we'll find them there. Okay, well, to RC, who is one of the maestros to not only birds but also lizards, got the answer correct, and it was a black-chested snake eagle. So very well done to you, RC. Kind of a half, let's say snake eagle, black-chested eagle is the one more, and the black-chested one is just now the one that's common. And I'm just going to get out my book quickly to show you what's happening, and the bird that you could also get it confused with. Okay, so just to recap, it was Bev on Twitter who got snake eagle, but you've got to be a little bit more precise, Bev. We'll let it slide this time. But as I've just said, there's a brown snake eagle, which is seen more commonly here. Obviously, very easy to distinguish between its cousin, the black-chested snake eagle, which is the one we saw. There were a few other guesses. I'm just going to flip over to another bird that people thought it may have been, and that was the African hawk eagle. Now, not a bad guess, because the African hawk eagle, which is the one at the bottom here, does have very similar coloration, but it's black specks along its breast, and it doesn't have a very defined black head or chest. So not far off though. Then the main one that you could get it confused with is the bird on the top right here. And as you can see, this bird, the Martial eagle, also has a very brown or black chest and head, but it's probably twice the size of the black-chested snake eagle. It's a massive bird of prey, one of the biggest we have in this area. And to give you an idea of how big the wingspan is of that Martial eagle, it's the height of your average door and a quarter. So 1 1/4 doors or doorways is its wingspan, 2.5 meters. Copy that. I believe I was in a little bit of a bad signal spot there, and if you would like me to reiterate what I've been talking about, I'm happy to do so. So just let Nikki in the final control know to send a message, and I can recap on the birds and the differences if that didn't come through very clearly. Again, I just slowed down to look at tracks. I saw there'd been quite a lot of activity on the road, and it was a herd of buffalo that moved through here. Initially I thought it could have been elephants. There's some buffalo again heading in the right direction into Nkuhuma, heading south from left to right. Scott. Stations, just making sure guys copied the update. Karula was lying up on a pile of plains midway between Balanites and the power lines, just on the western side of the road, Karula. That was about half an hour ago. No negative Aubrey left about half an hour ago. Like I say, if you just take Impala planes from Balanites, about midway between the power lines, she was lying up on the western side of the road, very close. Okay. So now, the plan is to go and find these lions. We're not far away at all. I'm guessing that they could well be asleep when we find them, and could continue to sleep for a while before they get up. We'll have a closer inspection, see how full their bellies are. It'll be great for us just to establish the sighting, have an idea of what they're doing. After, we can possibly leave them and head to the waterhole, which is very close to us, and see what's going on there. But I think it's important for us just to get an idea of their exact frame of mind and the state of hunger. After, we'll make another plan. what we're looking for is a branch of a specific tree with big green round leaves, and Stefan left a branch of that tree on the road, and at that point we know to head south. It's just a trick or a little way that guides will leave an area where it may be difficult to explain exactly where they are. Just leave a branch on the road, and that way the other vehicles that go back there a little bit later have an exact indication of where they are supposed to be looking for the animal. So that is what we will be doing now. I'm driving slowly because we know there's line nearby, but we don't know if they've moved, so it's important just to drive slowly, make sure we're not missing any tracks of where they may have left or moved to. It's easy to get overexcited and come crashing into a sighting and then realize that you may have ruined some very useful information that is left by the animals as they move. Go ahead, Brent. If you continue south towards Balanites, she was just lying up on the western side of the road, midway between the power lines and Balanites. Okay, well, here we have the indicator in the road ahead of us, and you may notice that I forgot to do this very thing with where we left Karula, so that was naughty guiding on my behalf, but I did honestly just forget. But ideally I would have left a branch, just like the one you can see in the road ahead of us here, so that whoever goes to look for her now will know exactly where she was, and that way be able to start following up on her tracks if she has moved. Anyway, we have been instructed to head right, south into this block, and that is what we will do. And hopefully it won't be long until we've got a visual of the lions. And let's see who can spot them first, you or me, or them. But we know they're close, so keep your eyes peeled. Not going to be easy. There's a lot of yellows and oranges that could get you confused. Where could they be? Well, there they are, and isn't this awesome? Well, it certainly seems like at this stage this afternoon is going to be a sleepy cat afternoon, but that doesn't matter because at least we are getting to see them. And we can often take a very close look at them when they are stationary, which becomes more difficult when they're on the move. And as you can see, VM's taking you on a little tour. That's a young male. So a son of one of the females, and he had a big mane that you would have noticed. Bellies don't look too full, but again, they don't look starving. One of them's got their head up, so that's a good sign, and it only takes one of them to get up and start moving, and the rest will follow suit. So one of them amongst these lion, and it will be a lioness, she'll be the boss. It's hard for me to say which one at this stage. Two youngsters aren't looking too good. They're looking a little bit undernourished, but that's not uncommon with prides of lion. The adults and the biggest and the strongest lions will be the ones that feed first and feed on as much of the kill as they can, and they'll chase off even their sons and daughters and siblings in order to compete for food. And that's important, and it makes more sense for the strongest and the fittest animals within the pride survive, because they will be the animals that will contribute the most. Two young cubs that we can see lying off to the left of the rest of the pride are not really contributing anything at this stage. They're too young to help in hunting, and therefore if the lions have been battling to catch food, they will be the ones who suffer. It's nothing to worry about. Are not going to be providing us with any action in the near future. That I'm fairly certain of. So what we will do is we'll leave them to continue sleeping and rather try and join up with them a little bit later as they may become more active. So that is the plan. Really put them into a thorn bush. Aubrey, I'm just leaving them now. They're lying up flat, fast asleep. Best access is from the fire break closest to the eastern link to Buffelshoek Dam. There's a round leaf teak dropped on the road. So just giving a guide who's on his way here updates of the position, and again just sharing that information and making sure that everyone knows what's going on. So, there is a waterhole very close by, and I'm hoping these lion are going to go and drink there later. And wouldn't that be awesome to see all 8 of them lined up drinking? So that's something worth hanging around for. Failing them coming to drink, we will certainly come and keep an eye on whatever they do. But hopefully, in the meantime, we can see what else is drinking at the waterhole. Not only see what's drinking, see what could be there when these lion potentially arrive for their drink a little bit later. cooling down considerably now. The sun, as you would have noticed, has disappeared behind a cloud. So you've got a few more minutes of this cooler weather, and it will obviously continue to get cooler into the evening. I really do love the weather at this time of the year. The summer's a little bit too hot for me here in the Sabi Sands. But the winters I absolutely love. Not that we're there yet, but even this transition going into the winter is wonderful. Apologies for not dropping a branch, I just forgot. So just apologizing to the guides for not dropping an indicator branch of where we left her, but Brent and Stefan did go back there to have a look for her, but didn't have any luck. So the leopard has moved off, and she obviously didn't move on the road because they would have seen her tracks. Go ahead. Good afternoon, Dennis, in Valencia, Spain. I hope all is well with you this afternoon and that you're enjoying the safari. Now, Dennis is in a fortunate position, and he's planning a trip to the Sabi Sands in August and has asked me what I think about that time of year. And Dennis, that's one of my favorite times of year. So it may differ between guides, but a lot of guides do like that time of the year in the specific area because it's the end of the winter. And at the end of winter, the bush is at its most toughest, and you could say that probably because animals are all relying on small little puddles of water. A lot of the herbivores have lost condition, so you get a lot of good carnivore action with the lions and leopards making the most of the weakening herbivores. And the weather in general is also great. So not only the game viewing and the atmosphere out here in the Sabi Sands, but simply the coolish weather. Your chances of rain are slim. As you get closer to September, October, November, it's more likely to rain. Whereas in August, cloudless, blue skies, a little bit chilly in the morning, so bring some warm clothes, Dennis. But by the end of your morning game drive, you would have peeled off the layers and probably be wearing shorts and a t-shirt. You may start off looking a little bit different, though, bundled up with some warm gear. But Dennis, you are coming at a wonderful time, and I would start counting down the sleeps if I were you, because it's an incredible place to come on safari. It really is. Go ahead. Well, there's a classroom somewhere in Illinois that are currently watching this game drive, and aren't you guys all so lucky? So hello to Jackie's class in Illinois, and you all need to thank Jackie for tuning in to the show. I wish my teacher would have let us watch stuff like this, but then again, Welcome back, everyone. And apologies for the breakup in signal there. But we're back, and back to Mallory's question. And Mallory's an 8th grader in Illinois, and their class is busy watching. Good afternoon, Mallory. And Mallory would like to know how long lion would like to sleep or do sleep on a daily basis. Now, it depends on the day and how lucky they've been with hunting and how much food they've got. But on average, they sleep for about 16 to 20 hours every single day. So basically twice as much as us as humans will sleep. So they've got a lot more time to snooze than we do. And that's what makes it difficult with viewing them and watching them, because they do spend a lot of time sleeping. But if we're patient, we might just get to see them doing some really interesting stuff and seeing them on the move. So 16 to 20 hours a day, but it does depend, Mallory. And we've got another question from another classmate of yours, and I'm just waiting to hear that now. And it's a question through from Libby. Now, Libby, good afternoon and welcome. Libby would like to know, how long can lions go for between kills? Now, again, a very good question, and it depends on how full their belly is after their last kill, but they can go comfortably for a week without eating if their stomach was full of whatever it was that they could feed on before. But ideally they would eat every 2 or 3 days. Now, again, that is taking into consideration that they would have eaten until they're about to pop, and they really do fill those stomachs up when they get the chance to, because they don't know when their next meal is going to be. And it's very difficult, even as fast as they are and as how good their vision is at night time. All of the animals that they eat have learned how to escape being eaten, and it can be very difficult for the lions to catch their food. So when they do get an opportunity, they'll eat as much as they can, and if their stomach is full, easily 2 or 3 days comfortably before the next meal. Good questions though, and I hope you guys are enjoying your afternoon on safari here in South Africa. And Jackie, thanks for letting your class tune into the show. Now, you would have noticed VM did pan across to the waterhole, and there's no evidence of any big mammals around. There's also no sign of the crocodile that we've been seeing here recently. It arrived about 2.5 or 3 weeks ago, a beautiful big crocodile, but it could be hiding under the water, and that's something that you have to be very cautious of when swimming in Africa or any countries where you have crocodiles, as they are masters of disguise and can often live in an area without anybody knowing, and then you could go for a swim on a hot day and end up in the crocodile's mouth, which is not what any of us want, and something to remember. Now VM is busy zooming in onto a bird that's standing on the water's edge, and this is a fish hunting and frog hunting bird called a heron. And heron occur across the world, not only here in Africa. You get different herons all around the world, but this is the grey heron, and we often see 1 or 2 here at the dam. There's a lot of fish swimming around here, so lots of food. Currently it's just spending some time cleaning its feathers, so obviously it's had a successful day hunting and can now just relax and make sure it's neat and tidy. Huge apologies for not letting everyone know which lion we were looking at earlier. I completely forgot to say that it was the Nkuhuma pride of lion. It's a pride of 8 lion, and I'm fairly certain there were 8 there, but characteristic of having the one sub-adult male, he's probably just over 2.5 years old now, and it'll be interesting to see how much longer the dominant males in this area tolerates him being around. So that's something that we can look forward to witnessing over the next few months, because he is getting to a stage where he is becoming sexually mature, and therefore he needs to head out of home and go and find a new territory and a new home for himself and start a family of his own. Now, I've spent a lot of time at this dam over the months, and the interesting thing about it is that you can be sitting here now, as we are, with evidently not too much going on, but then all of a sudden, out of the thick vegetation surrounding us, a whole herd of elephant could arrive, or like a few days ago, about 300 buffalo came to drink. We had seen them here in the morning, and came back in the afternoon hoping they would arrive, and they certainly did. But the only way to witness these animals arriving is, again, to be patient, and also by being stationary here we can listen. Now there's a little bit of a breeze which makes hearing animals moving through the bush a bit more difficult, because their noises would be muffled by the sound of the leaves blowing in the wind, but we would certainly be able to hear things. Just got a report from one of the game drive vehicles. There were impala alarm calling south of where we are to the right, so I just took my earpiece out and cupped my hand to create a receiver pointing backwards, kind of like this, and it really does work well. If you are wanting to listen to anything at night or at any stage, if you cup your ears and point your head towards where the sound is coming from, your hands act as extra receivers and really increase the volume. So I was hoping I was going to be able to hear the alarm calls. I think it was impala, he said, which let off a short nasal snort, but I couldn't hear anything, so obviously he's a bit far south, and he's just going to get off his vehicle now and go and examine that area and see if he can find any tracks or signs. Again, a good example of when you are stationary, you can hear those noises, whereas when you're driving and the vehicle's engine is running, you will not pick up on those alarm calls, be it from the impala or monkeys or squirrels. So So we've just got a question through asking what the name of this dam means in English. Now, the name of the dam is called Buffels Hoek, spelled B-U-F-F-E-L-S, Buffels Hoek, H-O-E-K, Buffels Hoek Dam, all one word. And what Buffels Hoek means Buffels means buffalo, and hook means corner. So it's been termed Buffalo Corner, and a lot of the areas out here in the various reserves and also roads will be named after animals or trees that may have been common in that area, obviously at the time that the area or dam was named. That will vary over years, but as I said, it was just a few days ago that we had 200 or 300 buffalo drinking here. So they certainly do spend time here. And it just means buffalo corner. In Afrikaans is the language. And Afrikaans is essentially a language of Dutch origin. And for those of you who are watching in Holland, we would be able to converse and we would understand one another, even though some pronunciation would be different and some words would be different. We would certainly be able to have a conversation with one another. When I say we, I mean the Afrikaans speaking people of South Africa. My Afrikaans isn't very good, but I can get by. Liam, on the other hand, is on camera behind me this afternoon, is from an Afrikaans origin, so that's a little bit of the diversity we have in the cultures. And there's another 9 local African languages here in South Africa, so we really do have an array and diverse culture and population in this country, which is wonderful. We've just got an update or a question through from Sandy in Texas. Now, Sandy in Texas would like to know if I've heard any updates on the Game Drive channel regarding the hyena den sites. And I did hear somebody was going there, but that was all I heard. And I'm just going to ask the guys for an update right now, Sandy, so stand by for the answer. Can any station confirm if the MPCK has been active this afternoon? Copy, thanks, Craig. So Craig was there about 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, he says, and it was not active, and just as well, because it would have made life difficult for us in terms of what to do. The den site is quite far from where we are here, and we're kind of in a position now where we would like to probably invest this time with the lion a little bit later on. As I said, we don't get to see lion as often as some of the other predators, or especially leopard, and that does vary from week to week, but we do have some catching up to do with lion sightings, and I can't wait to see and spend more time with them this afternoon. So just as well the hyena den site's not active, because then we'd be torn as to what we should be doing. We will certainly plan on going there tomorrow. So, and again, like I said, hopefully we'll have 2 vehicles out, and that way it allows us to also spread throughout the reserve, and different guides can go and check different areas and share different content with you, whereas this afternoon you're just stuck with me, sadly. So if you were desperate to see the hyena den site, I am sorry, and you'll just have to wait until tomorrow morning, because I feel this afternoon is a good time for us to spend with these lion. And speaking of which, I think we should head back over there and see if their behavior has changed at all. It was just the other day that Mark was at this very dam with 2 male lions that he found, and they are the coalition of male lions that oversee the territory within which the Nkuhuma pride of lions, the lions that we saw a little bit earlier and are going to go back to now. So they're the dominant males that will mate with the lioness from that pride. Anyway, Mark was here, had a wonderful sighting after he found these 2 male lions, and when it was time to leave, he was driving off and he bumped into a young male leopard. So the point of the story is, even though we know there's lion nearby, anything else could pop up at any stage here. As we're driving past these trees on our left, I'm having happy memories back to a rainy morning where there were a few leopard, a young female and a male, sitting in and amongst all of these trees. They're actually lying up on the fallen down tree in the center of the shot. And as time goes on, in any area that you work in out here in the bush, you always build up this archive of memories of different sightings. Happens. Really happy memories, and it has been an awesome few months for me and the rest of the crew here. We've loved every second of it and been really fortunate with the game viewing and what we've got to be able to share with you. It really is a privilege to be able to work in a place like this, because it is certainly one of the best game viewing destinations in Africa. It does depend on what you're wanting to look for and what you're wanting to achieve from your safari. And there are so many different types of safari lodges and areas where you can go. It's also great to come back here after spending 3.5 years here in the beginning of my career. Or will it stay or will it go? Oh, it's going. And VM just managed to capture it. Well done, VM. That was a fleeting glimpse of a small antelope, excuse me, called a steenbok. And it was fully grown. It was a big male, but they only stand about that high. They're probably 2 feet tall, not tall at all. I'm quite nervous and skittish. I'm just making my way in to relocate them. I will update you in the next minute. Coffee, thanks Sean. I think Aubrey might also be making his way here, but that shouldn't be a problem. It will just be the 3 of us then. Okay, well there is another vehicle here, and that looks like Aubrey. Craig, there's Aubrey here with myself, Sean making his way. You can take a first standby. On the fire break, close to the eastern arm that links down to Buffelshoek Dam, you will find around Leaf Teak. And head south from there. We're about 50 meters south of the road. Well, even though she's just having a toilet break, at least we get to see her up and on the move. It does appear that the rest of the pride, you'll notice in the background, have got their heads up. The one's yawning. And these are all good indicators. Some are grooming. And these are the good signs that we were hoping to see. Well, it's difficult for me to count from where we are. It is very thick. I'm going to try and reposition shortly. So let's do that now. And then we'll count how many there are, but there should be 8. It's going to be a little bit tricky wherever we are because there's a lot of vegetation around them. But here we can see the young male. So he would have been born into this pride and is possibly the son of the female that he's grooming now. So a little bit of bonding between the mother and her boy. He went anywhere from about 2.5 to 3 years they can start getting pressure. He may be forgiven ever so slightly because he is on his own. If there was 2 or 3 brothers alongside him, they may well already be having to fend for themselves. Well, I hope you are having fun getting some screenshots because this certainly is a beautiful, beautiful sight, and our timing appears to be perfect because the lion are beginning to move. There'll be a few more toilet stops, and I'm hoping then one of the lioness will get up and start heading south towards Buffelshoek Dam where we've just come from, and then we'll get to see them drinking. So that's what we all want to hope for. Either way though, this is absolutely wonderful, and I hope you're enjoying every second of it. I've just got a question through from Sharon, and good afternoon, Sharon. Sharon said that she heard that the adults will lose their spots or rosettes as they become older, yet she could still see the spots on some of the legs of these lioness. Now I'm not sure exactly which lion's legs you were talking about, as there's quite a few around here, but this one is a youngster, and its spots certainly are more prominent than the older ones, but even the old lines, depending on the individual, will have rosettes visible. So it's just something that fades out but will always be there, just very faint, and depending on the sunlight and the angle you're looking at them, they may be more pronounced in certain scenarios compared to others. Buffalo's Hook Dam. Well, this is absolutely beautiful, and you can probably tell by the sound of my camera going off that I'm enjoying taking a few pictures of this. And seeing as though you all have to listen to me clicking away, if you would like to see any of the pictures, I do put them up on my Facebook page, so go and have a look at that on Scott Dyson Safaris, or every now and then we also put them up onto the WildEarth page as well. So check out those pages, and here we go. Here we have potentially the dominant lioness. No, it's just one heading off for a toilet break, but at any point now they could get up and start moving, and I'm confident it will happen in the next 5 or 10 minutes. Hopefully before that, and again, more of them appear to be getting up and stretching. So, for those of you who have possibly just tuned in, well, good timing firstly. I'm just going to let you know that this is the Nkuhuma Pride of Lion, so it is a Pride of Lion that we do see fairly regularly on our property here at Juma, and there should be 8 of them. I can see 7 at the moment, but the 8th one may just be out of view. And now they are slowly mobile towards the dam, I'm hoping. And it's Buffalo's Hook Dam, so we're in the northeastern corner of our property. They are not heading directly there, but are kind of veering in the general direction, and I think what they may be doing is possibly heading onto a road that is close by and in the direction that they are moving off to now. And once they get onto that road, they in all likelihood will follow it to the dam. At least that's what I hope. So now we need to decide what to do. That's a bit steep for us to go down. And somebody's kindly just making a little bit of space for us. I'm just going to wait for them to get into position. We typically try and only move one vehicle at a time in a sighting when the animals are stationary. Just want to say thank you. Okay, just to keep everyone updated, there are 3 vehicles. I'm not sure how much longer the 3rd vehicle intends to spend here, but Sean is standing by and I am now looking ahead. They are on the move. Sean, maybe follow me and you can join us. They're hopefully going to pop out on the road here. Go ahead. Yeah, Sean, you were in lineup, so I'm not sure if the other vehicle's radio is working, but loop around, they're on the move now. They're hopefully going to pop out onto this eastern link down to the opposite dam, so possibly follow me. Affirmative, it looks like it. They're heading a bit more east than south, but I'm hoping they're just going to get onto the road and continue south from there. Apologies, it is just important for us to keep everyone exactly in the loop with what's going on, and there was a little bit of confusion there. There was a vehicle that joined into that sighting that actually shouldn't have. So I'm just trying to sort out that little issue, and now we've got nothing else to worry about other than finding the lion again. Now, like I said, I am hoping that they were heading through this thick bush that they know is thick. They've been here a lot of times, onto a road, which is a nice pathway for them to move down in order to get to where they're wanting to go. And I'm hoping they are wanting to go to the waterhole that we are now approaching. And at any point now, they could pop into view. It's always a tricky thing when relocating animals, or something that you need to remember is that it's taken us quite a while to reverse and get out of that position. We've done a big loop around, and they can move quite quickly when they do get going, even if they are just walking. Here they are. Relocated on the Nkuhumas, they're on Buffalo's at East Road. Currently looking to possibly continue east, but we'll keep you updated. Yeah, we've got more coming across from the going to pop forward into a better spot. And here we'll have them all walk past us, and they're using that pushed over acacia tree to sharpen their claws. And it was just a few days ago that I can hear one vocalizing. You'll hear the gentle murmur of her calling. And how awesome is this? One of the lioness up ahead was calling, maybe trying to rally the troops to get them to move along, and as you can see they are now following, and it's a beautiful, beautiful sight to see. Golden afternoon sunlight. Sadly, they are not heading towards the waterhole that I was hoping them to, and that's not a problem because we're still going to get to follow them on the move. And there's one of the younger cubs here that is, like I say, looking a little bit hungry, and that's why it's trailing. Okay. Now we are going to attempt to follow them through this bush. It appears like it opens into a big clearing, so it's not going to require much off-roading. And these trees that we drive over simply pop back up as we pass by, so not causing any major damage to them. This is going to be beautiful. There's a large open clearing here, and it appears they're going to take some time out to play. Try and get us into a good spot to enjoy this. And what that might mean is we have to loop a little bit ahead. Look at this, absolutely awesome. And I am just going to continue to drive a little bit longer, and then we can stop and enjoy whatever happens. Beautiful. Well, it's golden afternoon sunlight, the clouds in the background, and all these lions to look at. Certainly is a wonderful, wonderful sight. And well done to VM. He's got some. Oh, get ready with that lioness there, VM. Looks like she might pounce. Keep an eye on them, they're looking playful. And they are highly social cats, and one of the only cats in the world that socialize to this degree. It's untypical behavior to find cats socializing, and it's just the lion that have realized the benefits of the social lifestyle that they live in. Craig, it appears that there's only 2 vehicles here now, so you can start making your way, and we'll give you an update when we're closer. Your best access will be off, I'm not sure, but we're basically heading directly east along parallel to the fire break, probably 300 meters south of it, so possibly on Cheetah Cut line. wait for this young cub to catch up with the pride. It isn't looking very good, but it's in no means in dire straits. So if any of you are worried about the health of this cub, don't worry too much. It's incredible how resilient these wild animals can be, and it just needs a few good meals and it may be back up to scratch again. Now, we did get very fortunate with this large open clearing that we were viewing them in, but it is going to get quite thick in here. I'm going to attempt to follow them. It doesn't look too thick, but just be ready for a little bit of crunching and cracking as we head through this dry vegetation. With the very sensitive mics and receivers that we have, it probably sounds a lot worse than it actually is. It is good to be out here this afternoon, and I hope all of you are having a wonderful time. It really has cooled down. The sun's probably got another 10 minutes or so before it sets, and hopefully we'll be in a position to show you that sunset. But the lions might upstage the sunset this evening. Now, it's always a little bit of a gamble, the pathways we choose to try and stay with animals and keep in sight of them. But this is not looking too bad at the moment, but we don't want to go too close to them and scare them in any way. So we'll just coast along slowly. They're just on our left. You may get the odd glimpse of them. Sorry, Jim. Guys, before anything does happen, I was just going to clear up whether the stationary sighting stays in position or the sighting following the predator to avoid confusion. Craig, did you copy that message? I'm not sure who the other vehicle is. So we are about to get into position now. Where we will be able to stop and get a view of this lioness. Sean, sorry, what is the outcome of that? Copy, perfect. Okay, well, you can probably hear some bellowing and grunting up ahead, and that is because there's a herd of buffalo that these lions are heading directly towards. Now we are in the unfortunate position that there are already 3 vehicles in that sighting, and the protocol is that the people who are there get to stay there and we have to drop out. There's a limit to 3 vehicles per sighting, so we are just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But what a beautiful sighting it's been, and what we're going to do is just enjoy a few more views of the rest of the pride as they come past. And this is the last 2 with the youngster in the background. What we're going to do here is literally not even move and stay exactly where we are. The lion are not too far from the buffalo, and who knows, maybe the lion will chase the buffalo back in this direction. Either way, if something exciting does happen, the vehicles that are there will have their time to have a look at what's going on and then allow us to go in and have a look. But until then, we sadly just have to sit around and wait. What we can do is maybe just get back to the... How are you doing, Sean? Good. Okay. What's your plans?
Yes.
Just stand by nearby.
The cruise cab grates my carrots.
Okay, we'll see now. Let's find the road. Well, this would be a good opportunity for you to send through any questions you may have. And to do that, you would hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, and or send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv. So feel free to send those through. I look forward to answering them. Now, I'm going to pull out my... No, I'm not. I forgot my GPS at home. Anyway, we know roughly where the road is, but I was just interested to see exactly what our closest option was. But if we continue in this direction, we will get to the road, and then we'll hang around, listen to the radio, and hopefully, if those lions do manage to get lucky and catch a buffalo, we may be able to go and then have a look at the action once the guys who are there have made some space for us. The good news is we may be able to get into a spot to show you the sunsets. Well, here is the road. You can actually see all the buffalo that those lions are heading towards have actually been lying down around us. The grass is actually flattened in and around where the vehicle is. And they are not too far away at all. this is torture. Go ahead, Craig. They're close, buddy. Get ready for some action there. Okay, so never easy having to extract ourselves from an exciting situation like that, but it's luck of the draw, and like I say, the benefit is, let's stop here and see what can happen. Go ahead, Sean. If you just keep heading straight east, you're not far. Well, there's a little bit of foliage in the way, but still pretty nonetheless. And just to keep all of you updated, there are some line that we've just been viewing, and they are heading towards a herd of buffalo. The buffalo are on our boundary, and as soon as, in all likelihood, the lion chase them, they're going to run across the boundary. That way, not allowing us to be able to follow them anyway, but we did have to leave them a little bit early because two sightings were converging. There was a sighting that we were enjoying with the lion on the move, and there was also a sighting that three other vehicles were enjoying with some buffalo, and it's the stationary sighting that gets to stay, so we had to drop back as we knew that these two animals would converge. There's some Franklin calling off in the vegetation around us. That is what you would have heard. And we're just going to carry on driving now, stay in the general area of the action, but I fear that even if the lion do chase the buffalo, they're going to run straight into another property, and that'll be the end of that. But I'm just going to listen very closely to the radio, because anything could happen, and it is important that I stay tuned into that. And while we're hanging around, I'm going to try and find another open clearing, because the sunset is just going to get better and better. But we need a little bit more elevation. This might do the trick though. Forward a bit, Vim, or is that okay?
Go forward.
There we go. So the sun is about to dip below that cloud, and it's basically wedged between the cloud and the Drakensberg mountain range. Absolutely beautiful. And we really have been spoilt with some incredible sunsets over the months, but these winter sunsets do have a certain magic about them. That's very kind of you, Craig. Thanks. I would like to take you up on that. I will be there in 3 or 4 minutes though, so take your time getting out. So there's some good news, and Craig, who does have access to the property where the buffalo in all likelihood will run when the lion do decide to chase them, has offered that we can go in and see what happens initially. So we're just going to give him a few minutes to make his way out of that sighting, and then we will join it. So good prospects, and don't go anywhere because things are about to heat up. He has had a visual of the lion. They are currently actually lying up nearby. They obviously know the buffalo are there. They've headed straight towards them and would have heard them from far before we could hear them. And now what the lion may be waiting for is that sun to dip below the horizon. And this lion will know that under cover of darkness, they have a greater chance in bringing down the buffalo. It creates more chaos and confusion, and it is a large herd of buffalo that when they are in control of a scenario, and that is the buffalo, and they'd be more in control during the day, they can actually rally their troops and come back and chase lion off any buffalo that may have been taken down. Whereas at night, there's a little bit more panic and confusion, and the chances of them rallying together in order to Craig, we'll just have a look at them, and as soon as there's a little bit of action, I'll move out and you can come back in. 'Craig, thanks so much, buddy. Don't go far because...
No, those lionesses are going into voyeurs and circling around. So
okay.
Inevitably they're going to chase them into torture if they are going that way. So
cool. Well, thank you very, very much. And have a good afternoon.
Too far.
It was important for me to just stop there for a moment and again express all of our thanks to Craig, because what he's done was very kind. And basically he has access to everything on the left of the road, whereas we don't, and he can therefore follow the lion and the buffalo, which are in all likelihood going to run that way. The lion were over to our right, moving to the left, straight towards these buffalo, so we can expect to see them moving across the road if and when they do decide to chase the buffalo. I think they could well wait for the cover of darkness, but can't be sure. Oh, look at this, this is awesome. Okay, so if you know of any of your friends that enjoy wildlife action, call them and tell them to tune in now, because things are about to get interesting here. Now what I'm going to try and do is park in an area where you've got a perspective of what's going on, and I think that is it over here. It's not going to be the best view of the lion initially, but I just want to give you an idea of the scenario at hand. So you can see the young male, he's lying up on the termite mound and he's looking down towards the buffalo, which are down to his left. Not far away. There we go. So there's 8 lion in this pride, of which 6 would be able to actively contribute towards the hunting. 2 are very small and a little bit malnourished at the moment. Anyway, there's 6 lion, but they are essentially up against hundreds of buffalo. We only saw a fraction of the herd, and this herd, as I said, will join up with one another and come charging back after the initial fright in order to chase the lion off any buffalo that was unlucky enough to have been pulled down. Now again, just bear with me, I want to try and just get into a good position. Hello everyone, how are you doing? Okay, oh, hey, fell over there, which is hard to believe. Okay, this is another angle, and again, we'll just get VM to pan across and show you exactly where we are in relation to the lion and the buffalo. So, here the lion are, and this is certainly not the first time they've come across the buffalo, and it won't be the first time these buffalo have experienced these lion. So they're expressing a little bit of wisdom here, and again, they know in half an hour or so it will be dark, whereas later, whereas if they try it now, the buffalo would be able to see them coming and also be able to regroup easier. You'll notice we could only see 2 lion on this termite mound, and that's no surprise. The other members of the pride may have split up and tried to encompass these buffalo, and this is typical behavior for lion. They will, wherever possible, hunt as a pride, and that's what makes them so successful, and also that's what makes them be able to take down large prey like buffalo. So even though there's only these 2 that we can see here, others could have looped further to the south, further to our left essentially, and be trying to encompass the buffalo. It may be a waiting game though. Now I'm not sure, this looks to be like a younger lioness, so I'm not convinced that she's an experienced hunter. It could well be the sister of the male that we can see also on this termite mound. So 2 youngsters, they'll certainly be able to aid in the hunt, but they're not going to be pivotal members of the hunting unit yet. She seems eager though, so she gets 10 points for enthusiasm, more than her brother, but you'll find her brother would probably be a far more useful lion to have if you could choose when hunting buffalo, because he adds a lot of bulk and power to their units, whereas the lioness are not quite as big and strong. Even though he is a young male, he's still considerably larger than even his mothers. What I'd like to do is go down and get amongst this herd of buffalo, because the lion aren't doing anything and they are going to follow the buffalo, so we may as well stay with the buffalo. And I would also like to show these buffalo. It's a beautiful sight as they move off down this long dusty road. Apologies, I had my volume down. Okay, cool. So VM has just spotted a lion to our right. Again, I do just want to get into position. Oof. This is worth seeing. Can you see this one here, VM? At 3 o'clock. So, this is incredible. You'll notice one lioness. You have to look carefully, but she's there. And now VM can pan across to the left, and you get an idea of how close the buffalo are to her. She's probably 30 meters away. So very close. But that individual there is a big male. She's certainly not going to want to try and take him down. It's the smaller calves and the older, weaker females that the lions will specialize in hunting out of these large herds. Craig, just to keep you updated, the Ngala are still just keeping an eye on the Nyari, but doesn't seem like anything's going to happen just yet. Okay, so the lioness is on the move. Again, she'll just keep a close eye, and by being close by and continue to put herself in a scenario where potentially she could come across a calf that strays a little bit too far from the herd, she may then dart in and try and attack. But she's not going to be hasty, and she's not going to rush into this, thankfully, and that shows the experience of an older, wiser lioness. The buffalo don't have a clue that the lion are here. Their behavior would be very different if the buffalo did know. And the wind is kind of blowing slowly away from the buffalo towards the lion, but it's very gentle, so at any point the buffalo could pick up the smell of the lion, and once that happens, you're going to see a lot of hooves and a lot of dust. It's a little bit too thick for VM to film the lioness moving, but she is continuing to move. As the buffalo are moving down the road, the lion are following behind. And there's a termite mound up ahead here that I'm guessing she may well pop onto. So there seems to be the rest of the pride. Oh, here comes one buffalo. He's got a fright. So the first buffalo have got wind of the lion, and let's see if they carry on the rest of the herd with them. It doesn't look like it. Maybe they just got a little bit of a fright, but there were certainly 2 or 3 big bulls, and you can even see some looking back now in that direction, looking back towards where the lion were. So possibly they just got the scent, but it all still seems relatively calm and peaceful here. So they just had a little feeling of danger, I guess. If they knew they were lion. Ooh, there's another buffalo coming now. It's way back. Copy. Just got visual of it, thanks. Can't see any of the lion behind it. So, hard to tell what's going on, and again, we don't want to go crashing into the bushes and interfere in any way. But VM's done a great job, and he's managed to miraculously get you a glimpse of that lioness as she moves through the vegetation, but she will continue towards us, I feel. And it's getting darker and darker every second. Are you okay there, VM? Yeah, perfect. And look at this. This is going to be absolutely beautiful. The rest of the pride following behind her in tents. This is awesome. Now at any given stage, these lion could decide to chase the buffalo, or they could trail the herd for hours. The only way to find out is for us to be here and stay with them and watch, and we certainly will stay as long as we can. Again, the buffalo are very large individually, but collectively as a herd they are massive. So even these lion, who are powerful and fast and highly efficient killers, This is one of their most difficult items of prey to take down. And it could be long into the darkness before anything happens, but again, we don't know where all the lions are. Some may have looped around and chased the buffalo back towards us. Anything could happen. And we've just got to consider ourselves very fortunate to be where we are right now. And again, thankful to Craig for making space for us to have a few glimpses of these animals and whatever happens. Now, the lioness are crossing the road behind us. I'm not going to turn the vehicle around, as some may well pop out to our right, but what we can expect is for them to cross over now. The buffaloes seem to be crossing slightly to the left, but then again there are some still to the right of the road, so we'll just keep an eye and see what happens. But the lion appeared to be crossing over to the left, and that could work well for us, because then they could possibly chase the buffalo back onto a property where we can see them. Craig, is that you? No, the Nyari are still slowly mobile south from where we last saw you. Some are heading east and a few are heading west, and Bengala are just trailing slowly. Sean, can you see if that other vehicle's still here? Okay. Okay, Craig, yeah, but I am happy to have one more view of them and then let you come back in here, because, yeah, that's only fair. So keep making your way, and I'll just have one last view of these lions, and then you can come in. Okay, copy. Well, then I'm waiting for you to tell me when you're ready. Well, again, Craig has refused my offer to return the favour and allow him to rejoin, which is only fair, and we've got to think about the long term, not just about this afternoon and the relationships between all of the guides here. But he's insisted that we stay. So stay we will. And VM is also a great shot. I don't know, there's just so much going on, we don't know where to film, but two lioness to our right, but are also looking very intently, and we'll be able to see the front of their face as opposed to the back, which will be great. Absolute focus, and they've got a big task ahead of them, these lions, and I'm just so happy that we're here to witness this behavior. It really is great, and to have lions stalking buffalo just ahead of us is something that doesn't happen very often. Now, what you may not notice is that it is darkening rapidly. VM will be altering the settings on the camera to give a lot more light. But what I can assure you is, what you can even see from their behavior, they're out in the open now, and they are beginning to back the fact that it is darker and that it's harder for the buffalo to see them. It's by no certain, but it's certainly not pitch black. But it is darkening, and you can notice how their behavior is changing. Before they were only following in the thicker bush, and he needs to get involved now, this big boy over here, because he's going to be able to help out a lot. clearly there's one lioness that's far ahead of the rest of the herd, pride rather, and she seems to be leading the attack, and she is heading after those buffalo with certain intent. It's just a matter of when they decide to attack. Now, I've yet to see this pride of lion trying to hunt buffalo, but I have heard from the other guides that they certainly can do, and in the past have taken down many a buffalo. So they are certainly not boxing out of their weight category. This is something that they have done in the past, and you'll find predators in specific areas will become specialists in hunting certain prey, and this is the largest prey that these lion have specialized in. Well, folks, I'm just going to take this quick opportunity to say goodbye to all of you. And for those of you who don't have to go anywhere, we are going to extend the broadcast for as long as we possibly can, depending on what happens. So, we will be extending. And apologies if any of you do have to go, but again, thanks for joining. And we're going to keep an eye on what goes on here. And it is just about time that we start to move the vehicle again, get a little bit closer. But I think it'll be about another 10 or 15 minutes before we expect any action. Copy that, Sean. Yeah, sorry, I did copy your message from earlier. Good evening. Buffalo appear to be tearing off to the east, which is not a good prospect for us. And I'm not sure if it's a lioness that's looped around and chased them. They aren't stampeding, but they are certainly moving quite quickly. We're just going to wait here. It is getting dark, but we're not going to turn the lights on because we don't want to give away the presence of the lion to the buffalo. But you can see the buffalo up ahead. They are moving from right to left, and the lion will naturally follow them, and we sadly will not be able to. Craig, the Nyari are now heading straight east, a couple hundred meters south of the last position where you left. Yeah, still not far behind. I'll be happy to move out, like I say, as soon as you're ready to rejoin. Copy. So I wonder what it was that caused the buffalo to all of a sudden, with quite a lot of intent, move towards the east. There are certain older and wiser buffalo, often the females within the herd, that determine the movements and direction that the herd goes in. And it could be these older females, or pathfinders as they are sometimes termed, but I've just got a feeling that it's time to head east. It doesn't appear to be because they know of the line it's too calm. We would hear stampeding and a lot of bushes crashing if in fact it was another lion that may have chased them. I can hear some other bushes crunching to our left. Oh, it's another lion that I can hear crunching through the bushes to the left. I was hoping it was going to be a lone buffalo or something else, but it's another lioness, and it's vocalizing, trying to call the rest of the pride. And we could expect a little bit of a greeting here, or will they just continue down the road? No, they're just going to continue walking down the road. But I do fear that this may be the end of the road for us this evening. The buffalo appear to have all crossed over to the east, and we'll just spend a few moments here in silence, enjoying the last view of these lions before wishing them a happy night hunting buffalo. Keep coming, Craig. I'll be out of here in 1 minute's time. Thank you again very, very much. Well, as you would have heard over my radio chat with Craig, who again kindly made space for us, which he didn't need to do, so that we could come back and enjoy seeing the lion trailing after these buffalo. And what a magical afternoon it's been. It's not something we get to see very often, and I hope you've enjoyed every second. We'll certainly keep you updated on whether they were lucky, but they are in all likelihood going to continue to the east, where we sadly don't have access. So we can just be grateful that we've had an afternoon like this. We've gone overtime yet again. We've been having so much action that we've been going overtime quite often. And from myself and VM and Mickey in the final control, thank you very much for all the questions you sent through, and we will catch up with you tomorrow morning.